TV review? Yes, I am actually doing a TV review, which is something I do not do often. And when I do it, it is usually me ranting about Star Wars. My name is Ben Friedman here from the Beniverse Movie Channel. And today I am talking about a new Disney Plus show that is not a Star Wars show. It is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, season one, which is based on the book The Lightning Thief, which when I was in fifth grade, these books were really important to me. And they made movies about this, directed by Chris Columbus. The first one came out in 2010. I believe the second one, Sea of Monsters, came out in 2013. And they were not good. And here's how I know they weren't good. I would have been 12 when I saw Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief in theaters. I remember seeing it in theaters very clearly, and it was not good. And I remember having that feeling of this is not good. And it was a huge bummer. So thus, they announced this Percy Jackson series, and I'm out of college, I think. Like, I'm literally 23, 24 when they announced the series, and I'm like, my nostalgia's kicking in. Like, I actually want to see this. And so, like, I start hearing the cast, and they get this kid from a movie that was starring Ryan Reynolds called The Adam Project. And I thought that kid was really good in The Adam Project. So I'm like, oh, I totally see the vision of him as Percy. And then I just start hearing the rest of the cast getting filled up. You have Jason Mantzoukas from the Good Place and the podcast. How did this get made? He's here as Mr. D, Dionysus. You start hearing the rest of the gods get filled out. Lance Reddick, the late great Lance Reddick playing Zeus. And I'm just like, wait, what if we have something interesting here? So I started watching on Disney Plus, and I just finished the finale a few days ago. And I am let's talk about Percy Jackson. I'm going to try to get my feelings in on this show because there's a lot to it. And I heard some of the wildest takes that I've ever heard. Here's the issue with Twitter and critics on Twitter is they just think that just because they tweet and they have a following in a bubble that they live in, that their take is the only correct take, and thus their revolution or their revolutionary thought is actually revolutionary, and it's all their followers endorse them, and then it's like actually like just incredibly just like I don't understand the take, and I'm just like I guess people feel this way, but the take that I saw was essentially that this show Percy Jackson and the Olympians was lifeless, especially when compared to the 2010 and 2013 version that Chris Columbus worked in that featured Logan Lerman, Brandon C. Jackson, and Alexander Daddario. And I literally do not understand or comprehend that take. That is the wildest, most baffling take I've ever heard because that's just fundamentally untrue. It was this idea of like, well, with a movie, you can edit out some of the filler of a book, and thus like not everything needs to be in it. And I understand that. I understand not everything needs to be in a book to TV adaptation, and I also think this is the case of a TV show that uses the adaptation material wisely and is actually able to work within the formula of TV. And let me explain why I say this. And this is me kind of coming from a personal bias of how I felt about how Disney's done TV on Disney Plus for really the past few years, whether it's the Marvel shows or whether it's the Star Wars shows, is a lot of the times largely, I just don't think they understand the format of TV when they're playing with it. And what I mean by that is I just feel like these are movies over long and overdrawn out, and they don't really have any plot. They don't have any week to week basis episode. There's no real reason to tune in. It is just kind of feels like a beginning, a middle, and an end. And in a lot of these cases, when there's 6 episodes and they're 25-minute episodes each, you kind of get to the end and you're like, this was really a 3 hour and 15-minute movie that had you just edited some of the filler, and there's always filler in these episodes, you'd have a pretty decent 2.5 hour movie. So why don't you just make a 2.5 hour movie and then give it the budget thus to make a good looking 2.5 hour movie with these characters and performances I like? I thought that way about Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought that way a little bit of Boba Fett, and I think Ahsoka is a misfire for so many other reasons, but that was certainly another reason of the show that I didn't like it, is I just didn't think it understood the TV format that it was existing in and was trying way too hard to be a movie and not episodic. And I think Percy Jackson actually gets that balance perfectly correct. I think it is episodic in nature, and I think the showrunners of it made it and I believe the showrunners, pardon me, made it episodic. And it's a really basic format. It's Percy gets in trouble with a god, and each week it's kind of who's going to appear. So one week you might have the god of war, or then maybe you have the god of machinery, or maybe you have the god of delivery. I'm blanking on his name. Whatever Hermes is the god of, and then maybe you have the god of death, Hades, and then god of beauty, or maybe you have to go to battle with Medusa for one episode, etc., etc. It's just like kind of the, you know what it kind of reminded me of? It's the old 1960s Batman where it was just like, who's the villain of the week? Who's the center of it? Who's the guest star that we get? Okay. And now we move on. And then maybe sometimes they tie back in. If you know the stories, maybe you know that Ares comes back later. Or then you, like I said, you get all these little beats and you start recognizing this world. And it actually builds a pretty good world building where you're like, oh, okay, so this guy is brother with this guy, but his son is this person who has this relationship to Percy, etc., etc. And it actually draws it out in a way that I found meaningful and impactful for this TV show. I really want to just give some credit to the cast, who I thought was all excellent. Casting kids that were the appropriate age really worked for this show, and I thought they were all really good actors. I want to just highlight some of the actors real quick. Walker Scobell, I believe is his name, Percy Jackson in this show, I thought was just perfectly cast in this character. I thought he had all the energy and excitement of a character like this. He had that humbleness that I was looking for in it. Leah Sava Jeffries, who plays Annabeth, just perfectly well cast as well. She has the spunk needed to go back and forth. And Aryan Simhadri, apologize for your name, he plays Grover. The three of them just had such great chemistry that week to week I wanted to see on the adventures that they went on. And then you just have all these just character actors appearing, whether it's someone like uh, you have Adam Copeland, who's Ares, who's a really well done Ares. One of my favorite gods that we get into is, my gosh, I'm blanking on Hades. Hades is in the show, the god of death, and he has a really big one. And Jay Duplass comes in and just knocks it out of the role. I thought Duplass was sensational in it. Tony Stevens plays Poseidon. You just have all these actors coming in for a little bit of time, making this character theirs, and then leaving. And like I said, week to week, it just gives it that format and that juice. And it's just like, okay, who are they going to encounter next week? Who are they going to encounter next week? Who are they going to encounter next week? And I just found myself getting really excited tuning into this show. And yes, as a YA adaptation, I thought this was a really well done one. And one reason specifically that I thought it was just so well done was this cast is all just, like I said, perfectly utilized, but it's also a show that I thought worked for younger audiences. And again, I'm not a younger person, so maybe 10-year-olds aren't loving the show as much as I was. But how, when I was watching this show, I just kept having this feeling of, this isn't a show where they're just trying to be so cutesies for kids. Like, there's real emotional stakes, there's real drama, there's real just like actual like acting going on in these moments, and it's not trying to pander to kids. It is a show that could be consumed by children, but it's not a show that is only made for children. And I think it gives it an air of maturity that otherwise maybe it wouldn't have deserved. And I think that's been a problem with Disney, where it's just like they almost cater too much to children, that when some of their shows just don't feel universal. And this one, I think, is universal for everyone who watches it. And there's a lot to enjoy. The Greek mythology of it. There's just so much that I loved about watching Percy Jackson and the Olympians. And I will totally say in this review, I'm biased because I really wanted this show to be good. And I thought this show was really good. So, with that said, can't wait for season 2. I'm going to give this, I'll go 4 out of 5 stars. Why not? I'm being generous, maybe, but who cares, because I had a great time. And how little TV that I consume, this is one that I actually enjoyed. And just for reference, here's the TV that I've actually watched an entire season of this past year: Andor, Ahsoka, She-Hulk, didn't finish Loki, need to go back and finish Loki, and The Curse. I didn't watch The Bear, I didn't watch Succession. Like, I'm so far behind on shows. So the fact that Percy Jackson kept my interest That's credit to it. So good job, Percy Jackson. So that's my review on Percy Jackson and the Olympians. What did you think of the show? Well, tell me what you think in the comments below. And if you like this video, as always, make sure to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more reviews coming your way. My name is Ben Friedman. Take care.